So yeah, my name's Jordan. I live in Colorado, and this happened back in late October 2021. I was 24, just got out of college, stuck in a boring part-time job, and honestly, just feeling restless. You know that weird phase where you're not sure what you're doing with your life? Yeah, that one. Anyway, one night I was texting my buddy Chris, and he was like, "Dude, let's go on a road trip. Something random. No plans, no maps. Just get in the car and drive." I was like, "Bet." That was mistake number one. So me, Chris, and our other friend Marcus decided to leave on a Friday night. Marcus had this old-ass Jeep Cherokee that made weird noises whenever it hit 60, but he swore it was built different. We didn't really care, we just wanted out of town. No one had a real destination in mind. We just packed snacks, sleeping bags, flashlights, and a Bluetooth speaker. We said we'd crash at a cheap motel, or even sleep in the car if needed. It was supposed to be fun. It was supposed to be freeing. It wasn't. We left around 9 p.m. from Fort Collins and started heading west. At first it was awesome. Music loud, windows down, cool night breeze, random jokes flying around. You know, that kind of road trip energy. But a few hours in, somewhere past Steamboat Springs, Chris goes, "Hey, I found this back route through Route National Forest. Says it's like an hour faster." Me and Marcus were like, "Is it paved?" Chris shrugged. "Doesn't say. But how bad can it be?" That was mistake number two. We turned off the main highway and followed the GPS down this smaller road. Within 20 minutes, the road turned from concrete to gravel, then from gravel to dirt. "No big deal," Marcus said. "This Jeep eats dirt roads for breakfast." But even he sounded unsure. The trees got denser and the moon kind of disappeared behind the branches. The road started narrowing. Our cell service dropped to 0, and then we saw something weird. There was this old wooden sign barely hanging on a rusted metal pole. It said, "Dry Creek Hollow, 4 miles. But someone had spray painted over it in red, "Do not go after dark." Chris laughed nervously. "Bro, this is straight out of a horror movie." We all laughed, but it wasn't real laughter. You know that uncomfortable chuckle people do when their brain says, "Nah, this ain't right." But they keep going anyway. Yeah, that was us. Anyway, we kept driving. The road turned into something barely even a trail. The trees were way too close now, scratching the sides of the Jeep. No other cars, no streetlights, nothing. At one point, the headlights caught something weird, a wooden shed just sitting in the middle of nowhere. Door half open, look abandoned. Or maybe not. There was a candle burning inside. We drove past it slowly, dead silent now. None of us said anything, but we all noticed it. There were no power line, no chimney, no sign of a car, bike, or even a path to walk there. "Let's just keep going," I whispered. And for some reason, we all started whispering too, like the woods were listening. About 15 minutes later, the road split into two. GPS wasn't working. No signs, just two paths in the middle of the forest. "Left or right?" Marcus asked. Chris pointed left. "That one looks more used." Marcus turned left. That was mistake number 3. About 2 minutes in, we noticed something ahead. First, we thought it was just a pile of branches or trash. But when we got closer, it became clear. It was a car. A blue Toyota Corolla, maybe 90s model. Half buried in dirt, rusted, windshield cracked. But the weirdest part? There were fresh tire marks leading to it. And there were handprints on the glass. From the inside. Not just one or two, a lot. Marcus hit the brakes. "Yo, what the hell is this?" Chris and I just stared. I grabbed my phone and tried taking a picture, but the screen glitched. Like literally glitched. Froze. And shut off. We all sat in silence. Then the interior light of the Corolla turned on. No sound, no movement. Just the light, flicking on by itself. That's when Marcus was like, nope. He put the Jeep in reverse. That thing could barely move fast on dirt, but he made it turn around like his life depended on it. None of us looked back. We didn't speak until we were back on the main gravel road. You'd think that was the end. But nah, that was just the start. Because from that point on, things got weird. Like something's not right with this forest, kind of weird. I started getting a headache, and I swear I heard someone whisper my name. Not like, "Hey, Jordan?" Loud. More like a soft whisper. Inside the car. I looked at Chris and Marcus. Both of them were pale. Marcus said quietly, "Bro, someone's in the back." I turned around instantly. No one was there. But Chris, he was shaking. "I saw her," he whispered. She was sitting behind Jordan for like 10 seconds. Then she just vanished. We didn't stop driving until we hit a paved road again. We didn't even talk. And the worst part? None of us had footage. My phone was dead till the next morning. Marcus's dash cam froze and restarted randomly. Chris said his phone glitched and wouldn't even open the camera. We tried to talk about it later. We even Googled Dry Creek Hollow. Guess what? No record. No town. No road. No history. Like it never existed. After we got back to the paved road, it was like the forest finally let go of us. We all felt it. Like this invisible pressure just lifted off our chests. No one said a single word for the next 30 minutes. Just silence and the sound of the tires rolling. Around 3:40 a.m., we found a tiny roadside motel. Looked shady as hell, but we didn't care. We just needed sleep. The lady at the counter looked half asleep and didn't even ask for ID. She handed us a key to room 5 and muttered, "Stay inside after dark." Weird thing to say at almost 4 a.m., but whatever. Room was dusty. Smelled like old socks and mildew, but again, we didn't care. We crashed instantly. And that's when the dream started. The exact same dream for all three of us. We woke up at the same time. 6:11 a.m., no alarm. Marcus looked shaken. "Yo, did you guys have a weird dream?" I nodded slowly. "A woman? Standing outside the Jeep?" Chris jumped in. "Yes. Long black hair, pale face, standing under the trees." Marcus stared at us, his voice low, and whispering, "You came too far." Dead silence. We left the motel in under 15 minutes. Didn't even brush our teeth. Just threw stuff in the Jeep and bounced. Back on the highway, we figured maybe our brains just messed with us. Maybe the forest was messing with our heads, or we were just tired. But then stuff started happening even outside the forest. Around 9:30 a.m., we stopped at a gas station for breakfast. It was one of those quiet country towns with like 5 buildings and 2 old dudes on rocking chairs. While Chris went inside for coffee, I noticed something on the back of the Jeep. Fingerprints. A lot of them. Small ones. Like child-sized. All over the back window and bumper. None of us had touched that part of the car. I called Marcus over. He saw it too. We took pics this time. My phone was working fine now and no glitches. But when I opened the gallery later, the pics were gone. Not blurry, gone. Chris came back holding 2 coffees, pale as a ghost. "There was a girl inside," he said. "Behind the counter. She was staring at me the whole time. Not blinking, just staring." I asked what happened. She said, "You saw her, didn't you? The lady in the woods." I didn't say a damn thing about that. How would she know? We left. Quick. Later that day, back in Fort Collins, I tried forgetting the whole thing. But the dreams kept coming. Always the same woman. Same black hair, pale skin, whispering, sometimes screaming. Marcus called me 4 days later, said his Jeep wouldn't start. Took it to the shop. The mechanic said the engine was full of mud, not normal dirt, like swamp mud. The guy literally asked, "Did you drive through a river or something?" Chris started getting nosebleeds. Said his lights kept flickering. Even his mom heard someone whispering his name at night. Me? I started seeing her in the mirror, not always, just for a second. Over my shoulder, same expressionless face. One night I got fed up and drove back toward Steamboat Springs alone. Tried to find that road again. Couldn't. No sign. Nothing. Like it never existed. About 2 weeks later, I got a package in the mail, no return address. Inside was a photo, old, sepia-toned. Looked like it was from the 70s. 3 people standing in front of a shed. I swear on my life, one of them was the woman from the woods. And behind her, just barely visible in the shadows, was our Jeep. So yeah, after I got that photo in the mail, I freaked out. It wasn't some printed Instagram thing. This was old. Like real film photo old. Yellow edges. You could feel the years on the paper. There were 3 people in it. 2 guys, 1 woman, all standing in front of a shed that looked exactly like the one we passed in the forest. The woman? No doubt in my mind, it was her. Same pale face, same long hair, same dead eyes. But what messed me up the most was what was behind her. There, half hidden in the trees, was our Jeep. Same dents, same stickers, even the Colorado license plate. I showed it to Chris and Marcus. Both of them went quiet. Chris straight up said, "We're cursed, man." Marcus didn't talk for a full 5 minutes. Then he just said, "What if we didn't imagine any of it? What if that road took us somewhere we weren't supposed to go?" Over the next couple weeks, stuff got worse. I started waking up at exactly 3:13 a.m. every single night. No alarm, no sound. Just suddenly awake, heart racing, feeling like someone was watching me. One night I walked to the bathroom and my hallway mirror fogged up on its own. No steam, no heater on, nothing. And written in the fog and was, "Go back." I swear on everything, I ran out of that apartment and slept in my car. Marcus called me the next morning. He was at work, mid-shift, when he passed out. Said he saw the woman standing in a dark forest. Same one from the dreams, only this time, she looked burned. Like her skin was blackened, cracked, peeling. She pointed at him and whispered, "You brought it back." We had no clue what it was, but one thing was clear. We never should have gone down that road. A few days later, Chris's mom called me. He was in the hospital. Seizure. He wasn't epileptic. Never had a health issue in his life. They said it happened during the night. When they found him, he had scratches all over his arms like he'd been clawing at himself in his sleep. When I visited him, he was calm, too calm, like, sedated. But then he leaned in real close and whispered, "She's not done." I got goosebumps, man, not normal ones, the kind you feel in your bones. Now here's the wild part. A week later, I got a message on Reddit from a burner account. No profile pic, no post, nothing. Just one message. "You were near Dry Creek Hollow. Stop looking. It's not a place, it's a loop." I replied instantly, "Who are you?" No answer. Account deleted 5 minutes later. I told Marcus. He did some digging through weird forums like creepy stories, backwoods legends, missing people cases. He found this thread from 2013. Someone posted about their cousin who disappeared while driving through Route National Forest. Took a shortcut. Never seen again. The last known photo they took? A sign that said, "Dry Creek Hollow, 4 miles." Just like we saw. Only difference? That post said the sign was torn down in 1996. So how the hell did we see it in 2021? We made a decision after that. We got together, me, Marcus, and Chris. He was back home by then, quiet, like half of him was somewhere else. And we agreed we wouldn't talk about it anymore. Like at all, no jokes, no digging, no mention of the woman. We even deleted all the pics, the GPS logs, the motel receipts, burned the photo that came in the mail. And things slowly got better. The dreams faded. The whispers stopped. My mirror stayed clean. Chris hasn't had another seizure. Marcus sold the Jeep, and we just stopped talking about it like it never happened. But sometimes, when I'm driving alone late at night, I swear I see a dirt road off to the side. No sign, no lights, just barely visible under the trees. And sometimes I think, what if I turn down that road again? But I don't. Because now I know some shortcuts take you to places that don't want you to leave. And if you're lucky enough to get out, don't ever go back. You ever had one of those nights where you knew deep down you should have just stayed home, but you didn't? Yeah, that was me last summer, and honestly, I wish I could go back and slap myself for saying yes. It all started with a simple text. Yo bro, party at Kyle's lake house tonight, you in? Kyle was this dude who kind of lived like a mini celebrity around town. His parents were loaded, like actual rich people rich. Big house, jet skis, a private dock, the whole package. And Kyle? He threw parties that could probably make the news if someone bothered to call. At first I was like, nah man, I got work tomorrow. But then, the thought of everybody hanging out without me? Yeah, FOMO got me bad. Bad decision number one. I texted back, bet, I'll bring the drinks. I hit up my buddy Marcus. Marcus was that one friend who was always down for anything, no questions asked. I could text him, wanna go rob a bank? And he'd probably reply, what time? He picked me up around 9 p.m. in his beat-up Honda. The car rattled like it was coughing up its last breath. But somehow it always got us where we needed to go. The whole ride there, Marcus kept hyping it up. Bro, Kyle said he's got a new sound system. Like full bass, crazy lights, everything. It's gonna be lit, man. And yeah, at first it kinda was. When we pulled up to the lake house, music was thumping so loud the windows were shaking. The whole backyard was glowing with those string lights, and there were already groups of people drinking, dancing, and laughing around a bonfire near the water. You could smell the lake air, the smoke from the fire, the cheap beer in the air. It was one of those nights that felt almost too good, you know? Like a scene straight out of a teen movie. If only it stayed that way. Fast forward a few hours, I'm a couple of beers deep, everyone's loosened up, and Kyle decides it's time for a game. Classic. You know, nothing good ever starts with a drunk dude saying, let's play a game. We gathered around the bonfire, bottles in hand, faces lit up by the flames. Kyle stood up on a chair, grinning like he just came up with the greatest idea ever. All right, listen up. New tradition. Everyone who's here for the first time has to pass the Lake House Dare. If you don't, you're banned from future parties. Everyone laughed and whooped. I didn't think much of it. I figured it'd be something dumb, like jumping into the freezing lake or shotgunning a beer. Then he pointed at this creepy-ass boathouse across the water. You gotta take a canoe over to the old shack, knock 3 times on the door, and say, I welcome you. Then you come back. Simple. Everyone around the fire oohed and laughed nervously. Me? I laughed too, but it felt fake. Because something about that boathouse was wrong. I hadn't noticed it before, but now that Kyle pointed it out, man, it looked like something straight out of a horror movie. Half-collapsed roof, vines all over it. No lights, no sound. Just pure darkness. Marcus leaned over and muttered, Yo, that place is hella creepy, man. I should have said no. I should have. But everyone was watching, cheering, chanting. Do it! Do it! Peer pressure is a hell of a drug, man. Bad decision number 2. I stood up, stumbled a little from the booze, and said, "Fine, let's go." Kyle tossed me a flashlight and pointed to a canoe tied up at the dock. The water was pitch black. It was one of those nights where the sky was overcast, and there wasn't a single star out. The only light came from the fire behind me and the tiny flashlight in my hand. I paddled out, the canoe creaking with every little movement. Every splash of the paddle echoed so loud it sounded like gunshots in the stillness. Halfway across, I started getting serious second thoughts. The shack looked bigger and darker than it did from the shore, like it was swallowing the little bit of light around it. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn around. But the fire, the cheers, my own dumb ego, they kept me going. Bad decision number 3. I reached the dock and climbed out, the old wood groaning under my feet. Up close, the place smelled like mildew and rot. The air felt heavier, like every breath took effort. I shined my flashlight at the door. It was old, cracked, and weirdly swollen from the damp. The handle was rusted over. I laughed nervously to myself, trying to shake off the unease. "All right, let's get this over with," I mumbled. I knocked once, twice, 3 times. Then, just like Kyle said, I said, "I welcome you." At first, nothing happened. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "See, nothing to..." Bang! Something slammed against the inside of the door. I jumped back so hard I almost fell into the water. Nope, nope, nope. I turned and sprinted back to the canoe without looking back. I paddled like my life depended on it, hands shaking, heart racing. When I got back, everyone was laughing and cheering. Kyle threw me a beer like I just won a gold medal. I tried to laugh with them, I really did. But deep down, something felt wrong, like I woke something up. Like I wasn't alone in that boathouse. And man, I wasn't wrong. For the rest of the night, I tried to shake it off. I told myself it was Kyle messing with me, that they probably set up some kind of prank. But little stuff started happening. First, my phone kept glitching out. Random notifications, flashlight flickering. Then, when I went inside to use the bathroom, the lights flickered like crazy. And I swear, when I looked in the mirror, there was a shadow behind me for a split second. Not my shadow, something else. I laughed it off. Too many beers, I thought. Too much hype. But when Marcus and I finally decided to leave around 2 a.m., that's when shit got real. We're cruising down the winding roads back to town, windows down, music blasting. Suddenly, Marcus slams the brakes so hard, I almost eat the dashboard. "Did you see that?" he shouted. "What the hell, bro?" I yelled back, heart pounding. There was someone standing in the road, man. I swear to God." We looked around. Nothing. Empty road, trees, darkness. Marcus was pale, legit pale. Not fake scaring me pale. Like sick kind of pale. We drove slower after that, super slow. And that's when I saw it too, in the rearview mirror. Someone standing on the side of the road, way back where we came from, barely visible in the red taillights. It didn't move, didn't flinch, just watched us. I didn't say a word, neither did Marcus. We both knew pretending it wasn't there wouldn't save us. When we got back to town, we didn't even say goodbye properly. Marcus just dropped me off and peeled out of there like his life depended on it. That night was the start of the worst month of my life. It started with small stuff lights flickering in my room, doors creaking open even when I locked them. Then the dreams came. Every night, The same figure, tall, featureless, dripping wet, standing at the foot of my bed, whispering things I couldn't understand. I barely slept. I stopped going out. I even stopped answering Marcus's texts. I was spiraling, man. Straight up losing it. One night it got worse. I woke up to the sound of something dripping. I sat up, heart pounding. There, in the middle of my room, was a puddle of water. No explanation. No leak. No broken pipes. Just water. And standing in the corner, almost blending into the darkness, was that same shadowy figure, watching me. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't listen. It stayed there until the sun started rising. Only then did it slowly fade away. I knew I needed help. But who the hell do you call for this kind of thing? Ghostbuster? I did the only thing I could think of. I called my grandma. She's super old school, super religious. She listened to me without interrupting. Then she said one thing. You invited it. Now it thinks it belongs with you. Chills, man. Actual chills. She told me to cleanse the house candles, prayers, salt lines, the whole deal. And most importantly, never acknowledge it. No talking to it. No looking at it. No listening to it. It took weeks. Weeks. But slowly the nightmare stopped. The puddle stopped. The figures stopped showing up. Looking back now, it's easy to see where I messed up. Saying yes to the party? Bad decision. Agreeing to the dare? Worst decision. Speaking those words at the boathouse? The worst decision. Sometimes, man, you don't need to open doors just because someone dares you to. Sometimes doors are closed for a reason. If you ever find yourself standing in front of something that feels wrong, trust your gut. Walk away. Because some doors, once you open them, they don't close. You know that saying, take the road less traveled? Yeah, whoever said that clearly never got chased by something they couldn't explain at 2 in the morning. Let me back up. This all went down a few years ago during my final year of college. I was living off campus with my buddy Nate, sharing a crappy little apartment where the AC barely worked and the walls were so thin you could hear your neighbor sneeze. Life was chill back then. Classes, cheap beer, video games, rinse and repeat. I thought the worst thing that could happen to me was failing a midterm. Man, I was so wrong. So it was a Thursday night. Nate had gone back home for the weekend, and I was stuck solo, cramming for an exam I didn't even care about. Around midnight, I finally gave up pretending to study. I threw my books on the floor, grabbed my keys, and decided to hit up this 24-hour diner a few blocks away. Best pancakes in town, hands down. I didn't even think twice about it. Hoodie on, headphones in, let's go. Now, normally I would have stuck to the main streets. Well lit, kind of busy, even late at night. But that night, I decided to get clever. There was this back alley shortcut that sliced my trip almost in half. Barely anybody used it, mostly delivery guys and stray cats. I stood at the corner looking down that dark, narrow path. It was stupid quiet. No wind, no cars, just nothing. Every instinct in my body said, nah, bro, stick to the main road. But I was lazy and hungry. And honestly, I thought I was untouchable. Bad decision number 1. I stepped into the alley. At first, it wasn't too bad. Yeah, it was dark. And yeah, it smelled like garbage and wet cement. But whatever. I had my headphones blasting, trying to ignore how sketchy it felt. I was halfway through when my music suddenly cut out. Not paused. Not skipped. Just silence. I yanked out my phone. Dead. Completely dead. Battery was at 80% before I left, I swear to God. Weird, but not scary. Not yet. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Soft, slow, deliberate. At first I thought maybe someone else had decided to use the shortcut too. Happens, right? I didn't turn around though. Nah, I just picked up the pace a little. The footsteps picked up too. Okay. Now it was officially creepy. I stopped. The footsteps stopped. I took a deep breath, turned around. Nobody there. Just the empty alley stretching back into darkness. I shook my head, laughing nervously to myself. Chill, dude. You're freaking yourself out. I turned back and froze. There, standing about 20 feet ahead of me, was a figure. Not moving, not making a sound. Just standing. Tall, thin, almost blending into the shadows around it. Like if you didn't squint, you might not even notice it. I couldn't see a face. Couldn't even tell if it was a man or a woman. Just there, watching me. I swallowed hard, heart pounding against my ribs. I could go back, run, take the long way around. But some stupid, macho part of me thought, nah, you're being dramatic. It's probably just some drunk dude. So what did I do? I pulled my hoodie up tighter, kept my head down, and walked right past it. Bad decision number 2. As I passed, I caught a whiff of something sour, metallic, almost like blood. I gagged a little, speeding up without looking. Once I made it to the other end of the alley, I finally looked back. Empty. Completely empty. No sign of the figure. No footsteps. Nothing. I chalked it up to my imagination. Laugh it off, eat some pancakes, call it a night, right? Wrong. The diner was nearly empty when I got there. Just an old couple eating pie in a corner booth and some guy at the counter nursing a cup of coffee. I slid into a booth by the window and ordered a huge plate of pancakes and bacon. As I waited, I pulled out my phone again. Still dead? Weird. I sighed and stared out the window, just zoning out when I caught a glimpse of something across the street. Standing under a flickering street lamp was the figure. Same height, same build, same nothingness. Staring right at me. I blinked. Gone. I shook my head. Man, I need to get some sleep. My food came and I practically inhaled it, trying to push the whole thing out of my head. But the feeling didn't leave. That heavy, choking feeling like I was being watched. I finished eating, tossed some cash on the table and left. Big mistake. I decided to take the main roads back. No more shortcuts, no more alleys, just bright, busy streets. Only, they weren't busy anymore. It was pushing 2 a.m. and the streets were dead. Just me, the empty sidewalks, and the occasional flickering streetlight. I kept my hoodie up, hands jammed in my pockets, walking fast. Every few steps, I'd hear it. The soft, deliberate footsteps behind me. Every time I turned around, nothing. And every time I looked ahead, there it was. Always ahead of me now. Standing under the streetlights in the doorways at the end of the block. Waiting. Watching. I started to run, full sprint, like a little kid who just saw a monster under his bed. No shame. Survival mode kicked in hard. I didn't stop running until I slammed through the door of my apartment building, hard about to explode. I locked the door, bolted it, even shoved a chair under the handle, just for good measure. Then I collapsed onto the couch, panting like a dog, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. It wasn't. I must have dozed off. Because I woke up to the sound of scratching. Not loud, not violent, just slow, steady scratching. At the front door, I sat up, heart hammering in my ears. The scratching stopped. Silence. I held my breath, straining to listen. Then thud. Something slammed against the door hard enough to make the whole frame shake. I jumped up, knocking over the coffee table. Another thud. And another. Whatever it was, it wanted in. I grabbed my phone, still dead, and backed toward the kitchen, grabbing the biggest knife I could find. The pounding kept going, louder, faster, almost rhythmic. Then suddenly it stopped. I stood there, knife in hand, barely breathing. Minutes passed. I slowly crept to the peephole and looked out. Nothing. The hallway was empty. I laughed a little. A crazy, shaky laugh. Maybe it left. Maybe it's over. I was wrong. Because when I turned around, standing in my living room, soaking the carpet with muddy footprints, was the figure. It didn't move, didn't speak. Just stood there, dripping wet, head tilted slightly like it was studying me. My legs refused to move. My mind screamed, "Run! Fight! Do something!" But I just stood there, paralyzed. The figure raised one long, thin finger and pointed at me. I dropped the knife. I don't know why. Maybe fear. Maybe something else. It felt like it sucked all the strength out of me. Then it turned and slowly walked toward the wall. But instead of stopping, it melted into it, like smoke sinking into a crack. Gone, just like that. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even sit down. I just stood there, knife back in my hand, eyes darting around the apartment, until the sun finally came up. When Nate came back the next day, I told him everything. He laughed it off at first until he saw the muddy footprints leading from the door to the living room wall. Perfectly spaced. Perfectly human. He moved out a week later. I stayed. Mostly because I had nowhere else to go. But I never ever took that shortcut again. And sometimes, even now, when the nights get really quiet and my phone starts glitching out for no reason, I swear I hear those soft, deliberate footsteps outside my window. Still waiting. Still watching. Because when you open yourself up to things you don't understand, when you make stupid decisions for stupid reasons, they don't forget, and they don't forgive. You ever agree to something just because you didn't want to look like a little in front of your friends? Yeah. That's how I nearly died. Or worse. Let me set the scene. It was the summer before college started. Me, my best friends, Jake and Chris, and Jake's cousin Maddie, were all trying to soak up every last second of freedom before we got shipped off to different cities. We'd been doing dumb stuff all summer, cliff jumping, sneaking into abandoned malls, late-night drives to nowhere. All of it fueled by Red Bull, teenage stupidity, and zero fear of consequences. One night, we ended up at Maddie's place. She lived way out in the sticks, like the kind of area where your nearest neighbor is 2 miles away, and you lose cell service just pulling into the driveway. We were just hanging out, eating junk food, and telling scary stories, when Maddie dropped this gem. "Hey, you guys ever hear of the Hollow House?" Jake's ears perked up immediately. "What's that?" Maddie smirked. "It's his old abandoned house about a mile into the woods. Locals say it's cursed or haunted or whatever. Nobody who goes in stays the same afterward." Chris laughed. "Come on. Cursed? That's some Scooby-Doo shit." Maddie shrugged, but there was this gleam in her eye. "All right then. I dare you guys to go in." And that was it. That one sentence was enough. None of us wanted to back down. None of us wanted to be the chicken. Bad decision, number one. We set out around midnight. The woods behind Maddie's house were thick, way thicker than I expected. Even with our flashlights, the trees swallowed up the light like they were alive or something. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. No crickets, no owls, no wind. Just the crunch of dead leaves under our sneakers and the occasional snap of a branch. About 15 minutes in, we found it. The Hollow House. It looked like something straight out of a nightmare. 2 stories, rotted wood, boarded up windows, roof sagging like it was about to collapse any second. I swear it even smelled bad from where we were standing, like mildew, rust, and something way worse underneath. We all just stood there for a minute staring. Chris tried to act cool. So what? We just go in, take a selfie, and bounce, easy? Jake nodded, but his voice cracked a little. Yeah, let's just get it over with. Me? Every cell in my body was screaming, don't. But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be that guy. So I followed them inside. The front door was barely hanging on its hinges. It swung open with this long, drawn-out creak that made my skin crawl. Inside, it was even worse. The air was thick and heavy, like it hadn't moved in years. Every step kicked up clouds of dust and God knows what else. The floorboards groaned under our weight. The walls were covered in peeling, yellowed wallpaper and weird stains that I really didn't want to guess at. We split up because of course we did. Jake and Chris headed toward the kitchen. I stayed near the front hallway, shining my flashlight around. And that's when I saw it, a mirror. Tall, cracked, propped up against the wall. But it wasn't reflecting me properly. There was a delay, like I'd move my arm, and my reflection would move a second later. I frowned, stepping closer. For a split second, I swear, my reflection smiled at me. But I didn't smile. I stumbled back, heart hammering in my chest. Yo, guys, maybe we should get out of here. No response. Only silence. I called for them again, still nothing. Panic starting to rise, I decided to head upstairs. Bad decision number 2. The staircase looked ready to collapse, but somehow it held my weight. At the top, the hallway stretched left and right, lined with doors. Most of them were closed. I picked one at random and pushed it open. The room was empty, mostly. Just a rotted mattress on the floor and graffiti all over the walls. But in the corner, almost hidden behind the door, was something that made my blood run cold. A child's drawing, crumpled, yellowed with age. Stick figures, 4 of them standing outside a house. Except the house wasn't normal. It was on fire, and the stick figures weren't smiling. Their faces were scratched out over and over, deep enough to tear the paper. I dropped it immediately. That's when I heard it. A giggle, high-pitched, echoing down the hallway. I spun around, shining my flashlight wildly. Nothing. Another giggle closer now. My breathing got all shallow and panicked. I stumbled backward, slamming into the wall. That's when I saw them. Handprints. Tiny, child-sized handprints all over the walls, smudged in something dark. They weren't there before. I swear they weren't there before. I took off, running down the hallway, yelling for Jake and Chris. I found them 2 rooms over, huddled together, faces pale. They'd seen something too. I could see it in their eyes. We need to go, Jake said, voice shaking. No arguments from me. We bolted down the stairs, barely touching the steps. But when we reached the front door, it was gone. No joke. Where the door had been, there was just more wall now. Rotting wood, peeling wallpaper, no way out. Chris started pounding on it, yelling. Jake kicked it until his foot bled. Nothing. We were trapped. And then the house started laughing. It wasn't a normal laugh. It sounded like a dozen voices layered over each other. Men, women, children, all laughing together. Mocking us! The walls began to ripple, like they were breathing. The floor shifted under our feet, almost throwing us off balance. We clung to each other, terrified, no idea what to do. That's when the front hallway started stretching. No joke. It got longer and longer, the walls warping and twisting like melted plastic. At the far end, a door appeared. Red, old, beckoning. We didn't think. We just ran for it. Bad decision number 3. We burst through the red door and slammed it behind us. Inside, everything was wrong. The walls were covered in those same childlike drawings. Burning houses, scratched out faces, dark figures looming behind kids. In the center of the room was a chair, and sitting in the chair was a man. Or at least, he looked like a man at first. He was dressed in old, tattered clothes, head hanging low like he was asleep. But as we watched, he lifted his head, his face. It was like someone had smeared wet paint where his features should be. No eyes, no nose, just a mouth grinning wide enough to split his face. "You came," he rasped. We didn't respond. We couldn't. You played the game. Now you stay. The door behind us slammed shut. Lights flickered. The walls closed in. I don't even remember deciding to move. It was pure instinct. I grabbed Chris and Jake and barreled toward the man thing, shoving the chair over. It let out this horrible, screeching noise like metal scraping metal. We didn't look back. We just ran. The walls kept shifting, doorways appearing and disappearing. It was like the house was alive, trying to keep us inside. I spotted a window boarded up, but the boards were rotted and loose. Without thinking, I grabbed a chunk of broken wood and started smashing. Jake and Chris joined in. Finally, the boards gave way. We dove through the window into the night, crashing into the dirt outside. We didn't stop running until we made it back to Maddie's house. We burst through the front door, panting, bleeding, half out of our minds. Maddie just looked up from the couch, raising an eyebrow. "Back already?" We tried to tell her what happened, but she just laughed. "You guys probably just psyched yourselves out. The Hollow House is just an old shack. It's not even that big." We dragged her out there the next day in broad daylight. And she was right. The house was tiny. One room barely standing. No second floor. No red door. No mirrors. Nothing. We all agreed never to talk about it again. But sometimes when I'm alone, I hear the giggling. And sometimes when I look in the mirror, my reflection still smiles a second too late. You know those moments where you get a bad feeling? Like a really bad, gut-twisting, get the hell out of here kind of vibe? Yeah. You should listen to that feeling. Because sometimes that's the only warning you're gonna get. This is the story of the night me and my friends ignored every single instinct and paid for it. Big time. It started with a stupid plan. Me, my cousin Dylan, my best friend Zoe, and her boyfriend Marcus, we all decided to take a weekend road trip. Nothing fancy. Just drive, find a random town, explore, get drunk, make memories. Dylan even said it. "Dude, what's the worst that could happen?" If that's not the biggest curse sentence ever, I don't know what is. We packed up Zoe's beat-up SUV with snacks, sleeping bags, and a Bluetooth speaker blasting terrible music. For the first few hours, everything was chill. Clear skies, open road, the kind of freedom you only feel when you're young and dumb. We didn't even have a real destination. Wherever we end up is where we end up, Marcus said, stuffing his face with Doritos. Bad decision number one. Around sunset, we found ourselves driving through some endless backwoods somewhere upstate. Long, empty roads. No gas stations. No cell service. We should have turned back. But Dylan, being Dylan, pulled out this crumpled old map he found under the seat and said, "Hey, this little road here, Raven's Cross, it cuts straight across to the next highway. It'll save us like 2 hours." Now here's the thing. When a road is named something creepy like Raven's Cross, you don't take it. You just don't. But we did. Because we were idiots. At first it wasn't so bad. The road was a little narrower, a little rougher, but nothing crazy. Trees pressed in close on either side, blocking out most of the remaining sunlight. The deeper we went, the worse it got. Potholes. Broken asphalt. No signs. No houses. It felt less like a shortcut and more like a trap. At one point, Zoe joked, "Watch us get murdered by hillbillies out here." We all laughed. Too hard. Trying to shake off the nerves creeping up our spines. We didn't notice right away, but the farther we drove, the weirder it got. The trees weren't right. I know that sounds stupid. Trees are trees, right? But these were wrong. Bent at weird angles. Almost like they were leaning in, whispering to each other. And the birds had stopped. No sounds at all except the crunch of gravel under tires. Still, we pushed on. Bad decision number two. About 30 minutes in, we saw him. A guy standing at the side of the road. Middle-aged. Dirty clothes. Blank stare. He wasn't trying to wave us down or anything. He just stood there watching us. Zoe slowed down instinctively. Maybe he needs help? I leaned forward, squinting. Nope, nah, keep driving. But Dylan, being the human disaster that he is, said, "Dude, come on. What if he's hurt? It's just a dude." And Marcus, backing him up, added, "We can at least ask if he needs a ride." I wanted to scream no, but again, didn't want to be the coward. So Zoe pulled over. The guy didn't move, just kept staring. I rolled down the window halfway and called out, "You good, man? Need a lift?" Slowly, and I mean painfully slow, he nodded. No words, just a nod. Every instinct I had was screaming, "Get out of here!" But Dylan hopped out, opened the back door, and the guy climbed in. Sat right next to me. Didn't say a word. Didn't even look at me. Just sat there, hands folded neatly in his lap, staring straight ahead. The car suddenly felt about 10 degrees colder. I pressed myself against the door, hard hammering. Nobody talked. Nobody moved. We just kept driving. Bad decision number 3. After about 15 minutes, we started seeing them. Signs nailed to the trees. Hand-painted, dripping black paint. Like warnings in a horror movie. Turn back. No out. Not safe. Not safe. Not safe. Over and over. Marcus laughed nervously. Haha. Probably just local kids trying to scare people. But his voice cracked at the end. Even he didn't believe that. I looked at the hitchhiker, still sitting there, stiff as a board, staring blankly ahead. He hadn't moved. Hadn't blinked. I nudged Dylan. "Bro, we gotta ditch him. Like now." Dylan frowned, glancing back at the guy. "Maybe at the next turn." Spoiler alert. There was no next turn. The road just kept going, deeper and deeper into nowhere. The sun was completely gone now. Just darkness pressing in on all sides. And the trees? I swear they were closer than before. Right when I thought it couldn't get worse, the car sputtered, then coughed, then died. The engine cut off completely, leaving us in total silence. Zoe cursed and turned the key over and over. Nothing. "It's the battery," she said, panicking. I looked at my phone. Dead. No bars. Same with everyone else. We were stranded. Middle of the woods. No cell service. Car dead. With a creepy, silent dude sitting next to me. Top 10 worst moments of my life. We had two options. Stay with the car and hope someone found us. Walk down the road and look for help. Guess which one we picked? Yeah. Bad decision number 4. We grabbed flashlights from the trunk, left the creepy hitchhiker in the car, thank God, and set off down the road. The trees seemed to groan as we walked by, their branches creaking in the wind. Except there was no wind. After what felt like forever, we saw it. A house. Old, sagging, tucked back from the road behind a rusted gate. Lights were on. Dim, flickering yellow light. Hope flared in my chest. Finally, someone who can help. We hurried up the dirt path, climbed over the gate, and knocked on the door. No answer. Zoe knocked again, harder. Still nothing. But the door creaked open by itself. Just a crack. Enough to see inside. Warm light spilling out. Shadows dancing on the walls. I should have listened to that sick feeling in my gut. I should have turned around right then. But Dylan, sweet, stupid Dylan, pushed the door open and stepped inside. And like idiots, we followed him. Bad decision number 5. The inside of the house was wrong. That's the only way I can describe it. The air was too thick. The furniture too old, too still. Everything smelled like rotting wood and iron. There were photos on the walls, black and white, faded with age. All of them showed the same family, a man, a woman, and 2 kids. But their faces were scratched out. Every single one. We called out, "Hello, anyone home?" No answer. Zoe was about to suggest leaving when we heard it. Footsteps. Upstairs. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Coming toward the top of the stairs. We froze. And then we saw something. A figure. Standing at the top of the stairs. Watching us. It was the hitchhiker. No joke. The same guy we left in the car. Standing there, head tilted. That same blank stare. Only now there was something wrong with him. His skin was wrinkled, sagging, like he was rotting, and he smiled. A wide, awful, too big smile that split his face in half. We bolted. Ran for the door, but it slammed shut on its own. The windows, too. We were trapped. The walls started bleeding. Dark, blackish liquid oozing from the cracks. The photos melted off the walls, dripping like wax. And the footsteps, more of them now, coming from all directions. We backed into the living room, hearts pounding. And that's when we realized we weren't alone. Figures were stepping out of the walls. No faces, no eyes. Just pale, shuddering bodies crawling toward us. We had no plan, no weapons. Nothing. Just raw panic. "Upstairs!" Dylan yelled, and we sprinted up the staircase. The hallway stretched and twisted under our feet. Doors lined the walls, but they all led to dead ends. Rooms that dissolved into blackness. We kept running. The faceless things chasing us, their footsteps slapping wetly against the floor. Finally, we found a window. No hesitation. We jumped. We hit the ground hard, rolling across dead leaves and dirt. Didn't even stop to catch our breath. Just ran. Back down the road. Past the twisted trees. Past the rusted gate. Back to the SUV. The hitchhiker was gone. But somehow, the car started. I've got no explanation. We didn't question it. We just drove. Didn't stop till we hit a real highway 2 hours later. Didn't speak the whole time. We never talked about it after that. Zoe and Marcus broke up a month later. Dylan dropped out of college. I moved 3 states away. But sometimes late at night, I dream about it. The house, the faceless figures, the bloody walls. And sometimes, when I'm driving alone on an empty road, I see a man standing at the side. Middle-aged, dirty clothes, blank stare, just waiting. And I know, if I ever stop again, I'm not getting out alive. I don't even know why I'm writing this. Maybe because I still wake up at night hearing those sounds. Maybe because, deep down, I know none of us truly moved on. It started like any other stupid plan. It was late September, a little after summer had officially ended, and the nights were getting colder. Me and my 2 best friends, Tommy and Jason, were just hanging out like we always did. Small town, nothing to do, just 3 idiots trying to kill time. Tommy was the one who came up with the idea. "Bro, you know that old trail behind Maple Grove?" he said, grinning like an idiot. "I heard it's a shortcut to the next town. Cut your drive in half." Jason and I exchanged looks. Yeah, we knew about the trail, everyone did. And everyone also knew not to mess with it. Not because of ghosts or any of that crap, at least that's what we thought, but because it was abandoned. Sketchy as hell. Overgrown, forgotten. There were stories, sure. Missing people, weird sightings. But again, we thought, it's just small-town legends. People got bored and made stuff up. We should have listened. It was almost midnight when we piled into Tommy's beat-up Chevy. He was hyped. Jason kept saying it was a bad idea, but he still came. Me? I guess I didn't want to be the only chicken. Stupidest reason ever, but that's how it is when you're 19 and you think you're invincible. The entrance to the trail was nothing but a broken wooden sign and a dirt path barely wide enough for the truck. Branches scraped the sides as we squeezed in. Immediately it felt wrong, like the air itself was heavier. But no one said anything. "You sure this even leads anywhere?" I asked, mostly to break the silence. Tommy laughed. "Trust me, bro. Saves at least 30 minutes. Gas is expensive, remember?" I wish he had just taken the long way. About 10 minutes in, the path started twisting weirdly. It didn't feel natural. Like someone had tried to build it drunk or blind. And then the truck hit something hard. "Shastrist," Tommy cursed, slamming the brakes. We all lurched forward. The truck stalled out. Dead silent now, except for the ticking of the cooling engine. "What the hell was that?" Jason asked, voice tight. We got out to check. Underneath, something metal was jammed into the wheel well. Looked like, I don't even know, part of an old farming machine or something. Tommy tried kicking it loose, but it was stuck good. We stood there, shivering in the cold, arguing about what to do when I noticed something. Lights. Not headlights, just faint, floating lights deep in the trees. "Guys," I said quietly. "You see that?" They turned. We all stared. And then the lights started moving toward us. "Get in the truck," Jason shouted. Tommy jumped behind the wheel, cranked the key. Nothing. Dead. We panicked. I'm not gonna lie. I screamed something totally embarrassing, like, "Go, go," even though we weren't moving. The lights were closer now. I could feel them, buzzing against my skin. Tommy cursed again, jumped out, and took off running. Me and Jason had no choice but to follow. We tore into the woods. Branches slapped our faces. I almost tripped a dozen times. No clear path, just chaos. Behind us, I could still see the lights, chasing. I don't even know how long we ran. Time felt weird out there. Finally, we crashed into a clearing. Collapsed, gasping. Tommy was crying. Not like sobbing, but those desperate, hopeless sounds you make when you know you're screwed. Jason sat up first, wiping blood from a cut on his forehead. "Where the hell are we?" he said. I looked around. The trees circled us perfectly, almost too perfectly. And in the middle of the clearing, there was a well. An old, crumbling stone well. Now listen, I know how this sounds. Creepy old well in the middle of nowhere. Typical horror movie, right? But it wasn't like that. It wasn't cinematic. It was just wrong. Like it shouldn't exist. I don't know why, but all three of us started walking toward it. Not talking, not thinking, just moving like puppets. When we got close enough, I could see the inside was pitch black. No bottom. No sound. Tommy leaned over to look. And that's when something grabbed him. It was fast. A blur of something shot up from the darkness and latched onto Tommy's arm. He screamed, a raw, primal sound I'll never forget. Jason and I grabbed him, pulling as hard as we could. Whatever it was strong. Stronger than any human should be. Tommy's arm bent at this sickening angle, like it was gonna pop right out of its socket. Somehow we yanked him free. We all fell back, panting, shaking. His arm was mangled. Deep bruises already forming, weird black marks snaking up his skin like veins. He couldn't move his fingers. And the worst part? He kept whispering, "It's still holding me. It's still holding me." But there was nothing there. At least nothing we could see. We didn't waste any more time. Half carrying Tommy between us, we stumbled back into the trees away from that cursed well. The woods were different now. Twisted. Wrong. It was like they were closing in on us. No matter which way we went, the trees seemed to shift, funneling us back toward the well. We tried to stay calm. Tried to find landmarks. Jason even tried marking trees with his pocket knife. But every time we looked back, the marks were gone. It felt like we were rats in a maze. And the maze didn't want us to leave. After what felt like hours, we found the truck again. It was still there, abandoned, silent. And standing next to it was a man. At least it looked like a man. Tall, thin, wearing old, torn clothes. Head tilted too far to the side, like his neck was broken. And he was smiling. This awful, stretched, impossible smile. Tommy whimpered. Jason froze. I wish I could say I was brave. But I just stood there, paralyzed. The man beckoned. A slow, lazy wave. We should have run. We knew we should have. But Tommy moved first. He stumbled toward the man like he didn't even have a choice. Jason and I lunged to stop him, but too late. I don't know what happened exactly. 1 second Tommy was there, and the next gone. Just gone. Like the woods swallowed him whole. The man disappeared too. No flash, no noise. Just empty air. We stood there shaking, crying, waiting for something, anything to happen. Nothing did. Eventually, somehow, we found our way out. We don't even remember how. 1 minute we were lost. The next, we stumbled onto the main road, nearly getting hit by a passing truck. We told the cops everything. They searched. They found the truck. They found the clearing. But no well. No sign of Tommy. No tracks, no blood, no nothing. It's like he never existed. Now, it's been 3 years. Jason moved away. He doesn't talk to anyone anymore. I stayed. mostly because I can't leave. Some nights, when it's really quiet, I still hear Tommy's voice, calling from the woods. Sometimes I see lights moving between the trees. Sometimes I swear I see the man, waiting, smiling. And every time, I wonder if that night, if that stupid decision to take a shortcut wasn't really a decision at all. Maybe we were meant to find it. Maybe we were always supposed to. And maybe I'm next. At first, after the search ended, people talked about it a lot. Tommy's parents were on TV begging for help. Posters went up. Kids at school made TikToks about it. Everyone had their own theory. He ran away. He got kidnapped. Bears. Human traffickers. Nobody ever guessed the truth. Nobody would believe it if they did. After a few months, people moved on. They always do. But I couldn't, because the woods wouldn't let me. It started with little things. I'd be lying in bed at night, half asleep, and I'd hear someone whisper my name. Not loudly, just close enough that it sounded like it was right next to my ear. I'd jerk awake, heart pounding, but the room would be empty. Or so I thought. One night, around 3 a.m., I woke up and saw muddy footprints all over my bedroom floor, leading right up to my bed, leading away too. Like someone had been standing over me, watching. I tried calling Jason. Tried to tell him I wasn't crazy, that it was happening to me too. He picked up once. He sounded rough, like he hadn't slept in days. "You see them too, don't you?" he said in voice shaking. I didn't know what to say. He laughed, a broken, cracked sound. "They're inside now," he said. "Not just in the woods." Then he hung up. That was the last time I talked to him. A few weeks later, I heard he checked himself into a psychiatric hospital. They said he had a psychotic break. They didn't know about the trail. They didn't know what we saw. Life just fell apart after that. My grades tanked. I lost my part-time job because I kept showing up late or not at all. Not that it mattered, because I couldn't leave my house after dark. I mean it. The second the sun went down, I'd feel it. The thing in the woods calling to me. I'd see lights floating at the edge of my backyard. Sometimes I'd see shapes. Worse, sometimes I'd see Tommy, standing just out of reach, staring at me, not moving, not blinking, just watching. And when I blinked, he was gone. About 6 months after Tommy vanished, something new started. I'd hear banging sounds from the basement at night. At first, I thought it was animals, raccoons or something. But one night, I got fed up, grabbed a flashlight, went downstairs. The basement was cold, way colder than it should have been. My breath fogged up in the air. I shined the light around. Nothing. Until I turned toward the far wall. There was a new door. A wooden door, old and rotting with a black iron handle. It hadn't been there before. I swear to God, it wasn't there. I should have run. I should have burned the house down and never looked back. But I didn't. I walked to the door, put my hand on the handle. It was freezing, so cold it burned. And from the other side, I heard knocking. Slow, deliberate knocks. 3 of them. Then a voice, faint, whispering. Let me in. Somehow I found the strength to back away. Ran up the stairs 2 at a time. Slammed the door. Pushed a chair against it like that would actually help. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't sleep much after that either. Every night after, the knocking would start. Same time. Same rhythm. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps upstairs. Even when I knew I was home alone. Sometimes I'd wake up and see muddy footprints again. Sometimes, God help me, I'd find the chair moved away from the basement door, as if something was trying to come up. A year later, I hit rock bottom. I was a shell of who I used to be. Thin, tired, always looking over my shoulder. I dropped out of college. Barely talked to my parents. Friends? Gone. Everyone thought I was crazy. Hell, maybe I was. But deep down, I knew I wasn't imagining it. And then, on the anniversary of that night, it got worse. Way worse. It started around 11 p.m. Lights in the backyard again. Figures moving between the trees. Tommy's voice calling my name, begging me to come outside. And this time, I almost did. I had my hand on the doorknob when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Only 3 words. Don't open it. Chills ran down my spine. I stumbled back from the door just as the knocking started. This time, not from the basement. From the front door. Harder. Louder. Like someone, or something, was trying to break it down. I grabbed the phone again, shaking so hard I could barely type. I texted back, "Who are you?" No reply. Just the knocking. Relentless. I don't remember much after that. I think I passed out. When I woke up, it was morning. The house was silent. No footprints. No broken doors. It was like nothing had happened. Except on my phone, there was one more message. From the same number. It's not over. I tried to be normal after that. Tried to ignore the signs. Moved to a new place. Got a job at a hardware store. Kept my head down. But the thing is, you can't outrun this kind of thing. No matter where I go, it finds me. Sometimes it's a voice in the wind. Sometimes it's lights outside my window. Sometimes it's Tommy's face in a crowd. Smiling that awful, empty smile. Waiting. Always waiting. I dug into the trail's history after all that. Should have done it sooner. Found old news articles. Found records no one bothered to erase. Turns out, back in the 1940s, the trail was a burial ground. Not for people. Not exactly. It was where they dumped the bodies they couldn't explain. Workers from a mental hospital nearby. Patients who vanished. Men who came home from the war wrong, broken in ways no doctor could fix. They locked them up. When they died, they buried them there, unmarked, forgotten. And the well? That was no ordinary well. It was a containment pit. A place to trap whatever was left. Not water, not bodies. Something else. Something angry. Something that hated being forgotten. And every so often, it calls new people in. Just like it called us. Just like it's calling me now. I know how this sounds. Crazy. I get it. But listen, if you ever find yourself driving past Maple Grove and you see that broken wooden sign, if you're ever tempted to take a shortcut through the woods, don't. No matter what. Even if it saves you an hour. Even if you're late for work. Even if you hear someone you love calling from the trees. Don't. Because once you step onto that trail, once you hear the whispers, once you see the lights, it's already too late. And trust me, it doesn't let go. It never lets go. Man, if you ever find yourself sitting around with your boys at 2 a.m., bored out of your mind, thinking, let's do something crazy this weekend, just don't. Seriously, that's how shit like this happens. It all started at Kyle's garage, a Friday night just like any other. Me, Kyle, Jordan, and Zach chilling there, talking about how much life sucked lately. Kyle had just gotten dumped, Jordan hated his job, Zach was broke, and I was just bored. The deadly combo. So Kyle, who was halfway drunk already, slams his beer down and says, "Yo, let's do something wild this weekend. No bullshit, no half-assing it. Let's just disappear for a bit." Jordan, who's always the first to co-sign any dumb idea, immediately goes, "Hell yeah, let's go camping." But like real camping. No campsites, no park rangers. Straight up middle of nowhere. And somehow that sounded brilliant to all of us. Kyle pulls up Google Maps, finds this massive green blob 2 hours out of town, and zooms in. No roads, no towns, nothing for miles. Just trees. Endless, fast-king trees. "This," he says, jabbing his finger at the screen. "This is it, bro. Adventure awaits." Not one of us stopped to think about the obvious red flags. No permission, no trail, no backup plan. Nah, man. We were just 4 dudes hyped up on beer and boredom. So we planned it out real quick, leave Saturday noon, grab some gear, tell our folks we're hitting a regular campsite, and head out. Nobody would worry. Nobody would even know. First mistake, lying about where we were going. Saturday came and we were ready. I threw together a shitty backpack, some granola bars, a water bottle, my old Swiss Army knife, and a hoodie. Kyle brought his ancient tent that probably hadn't been unfolded since he bought it. Jordan brought booze and chips, and Zach brought a flashlight, batteries, and a folding chair. That's it. No maps, no compass, no real survival gear. Real smart, right? The drive there was actually sick. Blasting music, windows down, cracking jokes. The paved road turned into gravel. The gravel turned into dirt. And finally, the dirt turned into what barely counted as a path. Trees closed in on both sides. The air smelled different, damp and heavy, like the woods were swallowing us whole. We found a small clearing to park the truck, tossed on our backpacks, and started hiking deeper in. No trail markers, no GPS, just vibes. Second mistake, going in without marking the way back. The hike was rougher than we thought. The ground was uneven, roots and rocks everywhere. Kyle kept saying, "Bro, trust me. There's supposed to be a stream nearby. We camped near that, and we're golden." An hour in, no stream. No signs of anything but thick-ass trees. Finally, we found a sort of flat patch of ground. Big trees all around, some fallen logs. It wasn't perfect, but by that point, we didn't care. Jordan dropped his pack and yelled, "Camp base achieved, boys." We set up the tents like idiots. None of us knew what we were doing. It took forever, and honestly, the tents looked like a strong breeze could knock them over. We started a fire with dry twigs and Jordan's lighter. No fire ring, no cleared area, just a pile of sticks on some dirt. Smart? Nope. But it felt badass at the time. Night fell hard and fast. Out there, it's not like the city where there's always some glow on the horizon. Nah, out there it was pitch black. Our little fire barely pushed the darkness back a few feet. At first, it was cool. We sat around, passed the Jack Daniels, roasted some marshmallows Kyle brought last minute. Told dumb stories, laughed our asses off. Then sometime around midnight, shit started feeling weird. It was the sounds that changed first. Earlier, we could hear crickets, distant hoots of owls, some rustling, normal forest stuff. But now, silence. Not even a breeze through the leaves. We were drunk enough not to notice right away, but after a while, even Jordan, who could sleep through a hurricane, sat up straight and said, "Yo, you guys hear that?" Kyle laughed. "Hear what, bro?" "Nothing?" "Exactly," Jordan said, looking around. "That's not normal." We sat there staring into the darkness, and then click, click, click. At first I thought it was the fire crackling, but the fire was almost out. The clicking was coming from out there in the trees. Sharp, rhythmic, almost mechanical. Click, click. Click, click, click. Probably just an animal, Zach said, his voice way less confident than usual. We shined our flashlights into the trees. Nothing. Just endless black between the trunks. We should have packed up right then. Should have grabbed our shit and hiked back to the truck. Instead, we laughed it off and threw more wood on the fire. Third mistake. Ignoring the gut feeling that told us something was off. We crashed sometime around 2 a.m., drunk and exhausted. Kyle and Jordan in one tent, me and Zach in the other. I don't know how long I was out, but something woke me up. A noise. Not the clicking from earlier. This was different. Heavy footsteps, crunching twigs, breathing low, raspy breathing just outside the tent. I froze. I wanted to believe it was an animal, a deer, maybe a raccoon. But this sounded too heavy. Zach was snoring like a goddamn chainsaw beside me. I shook him hard. He jolted awake and whispered, "What?" I put a finger to my lips, shushed him. We both sat there listening. The breathing moved, slowly, around the tent, once, twice, and then nothing. Dead silence. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, just sat there, clutching my pocket knife, heart pounding so loud it felt like it could wake the whole forest. When morning came, the first thing we noticed was the footprints. Huge boot-sized prints circling both tents. Some heavy mother asterisk care had been walking around us while we slept. Not animal tracks. Human? Zach turned pale. Kyle kept saying, maybe it was one of us sleepwalking, but we all knew that was bullshit. Nobody left the tents. Nobody heard a zipper open. And the prints were too big for any of us. Someone had been watching us, circling us. Jordan wanted to pack up and leave immediately. But Kyle, in his infinite wisdom, said, "Nah, man, probably just some hiker. We're fine." We were not fine. We decided to hike deeper to find the stream and refill our water. Left our tents, left our gear. Worst decision yet. We walked and walked and walked. No stream, no landmarks, no clue where we were. The forest looked the same in every damn direction. Trees, moss, rocks, repeat. The sun was high, but somehow the forest floor stayed dark, like the trees swallowed the light. At some point, we realized we were hopelessly lost. No GPS, no phone signal, no way to tell which way was north. Panic started setting in. Jordan kept muttering, "We're screwed. We're screwed," under his breath. We tried to retrace our steps, tried to think logically, like Kyle kept saying. But logic doesn't work when every damn tree looks the same. And then we saw it. The same weird pile of rocks we passed earlier. A little stack too perfect to be natural. At first, we thought maybe we'd made a circle. But then we found another pile, and another, all identical, all placed right in our path. Almost like, someone wanted us to find them. By now, it was late afternoon, shadows getting long. We decided to head back, or at least try. That's when the noises started again. Not clicking this time. Whispering. Low, urgent whispers, just out of earshot. Like someone arguing in hushed tones. Every time we turned to look, nothing was there. Every now and then a flash of movement between the trees. Too quick to see properly. Maybe it was our eyes playing tricks. Maybe not. Zach was done. He wanted to sprint in one direction till we hit something. Kyle said that was stupid. Jordan just wanted to sit down and cry. We kept moving, but we were all shaking now. It felt like we were being watched, hunted. Finally, we stumbled into a clearing. Dead center was an old, rusted-out car. No wheels, no windows, just a hunk of metal half swallowed by the forest. We were desperate, so we ran to it. Inside the car, we found trash. Old beer cans, wrappers, some burned-out candles, and something else. Carved into the roof over and over were the words, "Don't stay after dark." The panic hit us full force then. We weren't alone. Whoever left those rock piles, whoever circled our tents, they were still out there. And they didn't want us here. We ran. I don't even remember how long, hours maybe. Branches slapped our faces, thorns ripped our clothes. The sun dipped below the trees, and with it, the temperature dropped like a rock. Breathless, bleeding, exhausted, we stumbled onto a dirt path. A real one. It wasn't the one we drove in on, but at that point we didn't care. Any path was better than none. We followed it, half dead with fear. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we saw lights, headlights. A truck. We burst out onto the road, waving our arms like maniacs. The driver, a grizzled old guy in a flannel shirt, rolled down his window and stared at us like we were ghosts. "You boys lost?" he asked. Oh, we practically collapsed trying to explain. He just shook his head, muttering something about damn city kids, and told us to get in. He drove us to the nearest town, which was like an hour away. We never found Kyle's truck. Never found our gear. Never even figured out exactly where we had been. Looking back, I don't think it was anything supernatural. I think it was worse. Humans. People out there, living off-grid, maybe protecting their land, maybe just *king with idiots like us. I don't know. All I know is we made every dumb decision possible, and we almost paid the price for it. Never again. Never.